Leading a municipality is no small task. Whether there are 800 people or 150,000, 5 square miles or over 60, our municipalities are complex organizations with many moving parts. In the Naugatuck Valley, Wolcott makes it happen every day. From Town Hall, through partnerships with other towns and organizations like CCM, Mayor Thomas Dunn works to move Wolcott forward as a rare independent. He joins us today to discuss all of this and more. We'd like to thank our premier sponsors at Digital Back Office Palo Alto Networks. Check them out at digitalbackoffice.com or paloaltonetworks.com, as well as our sponsors at Gateway and Housatonic Community Colleges. The Municipal Voices of the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WNHH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state-local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or our member municipal leaders. Mayor Dunn, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. How are you? Thank you.
Doing good. So since our show is focused on local governance, I figure we can kind of jump right into talking about how you govern. And I think one notable aspect is that you remain independent on the ballot. How did you make that decision initially when you first ran?
Well, back in 2003, when I chose to run for mayor, previous to that, I asked the party that I was part of, that I helped with campaigns and helped put up signs and helped on the fundraisers and all that. I was told I wasn't ready. So when I was ready to run, I chose to go unaffiliated. To get on the ballot unaffiliated because I didn't want to do a primary. I know how primaries work. Not a lot of people go out, so I was kind of, I knew what was going on through the election. So that was it was a scary part to do, but at the end of the day, as I'm looking here 19 years later, that was the right thing to do. We just had a couple people that had to be really close to me, and then everybody else joined right around us. And we just came out, and our motto was people, not politics. So it was easy. I didn't run a team. I didn't have a team with me. So I didn't have to answer to anybody except the people. And I told them, whoever they chose to be the council members or whatever else that was running, whoever else was running, I would work with them. I would work with them, and I would make it best for the people of the town of Wolcott. So, and it worked.
Great. So it sounds like you kind of have a good philosophy about focusing on the people and their needs. So is that kind of like a guiding ethos to how you govern, is to focus on the people?
Yeah, I was number one to come in here to have an open door policy. Again, making sure that the people could come in, that you're approachable. Things that I didn't, I was involved before as a town council member. So I've seen some things that weren't happening that people were asking for. So I just reached out right directly to each and every one. Seniors, we got them some buses and got them going out, just not sitting in the senior center. So we got them focused to youth. We needed some more sports field or better sports fields. So I just went out and was, everywhere. I was lucky enough to be a coach in baseball and football and a volunteer fireman. So I went out, I just went to them. I went to the people and asked them what they needed. So they didn't have to, they're busy working and all that. So it was good. It was fun. The first year was a great year, great campaign. 2 other opponents we went against. So it was really, we had a good time doing it. And we just made sure we focused on the positive.
Most of your contemporaries, though, most other CEOs in Connecticut are affiliated with one of the 2 major parties. And now more than ever, it seems like, there's a lot of differences that might even feel insurmountable to some people. As an independent, how do you have disagreements between the 2 parties and still get stuff done and still like each other?
Well, I think number one is to focus on what the problem or the issue is. When we're with CCM or the other organizations or council governments or cost, you have to understand we're in the same boat, we're leaders. But if it's dealing with myself and our town council, of course there's going to be agreements, so you have to have compromise. But if one thinks it's going against the people, then like if it's for me and they're not agreeing, then I'm going to just keep my feet in the sand and stay strong on it. But you have to have some movement and adjustment. You have to learn that through being part of organizations and stuff. It's not always going to go your way. But at the end of the day, we're people and we're trying to help. So I think it works for me great because I could work with a Republican or a Democrat, and I could walk down in a parade with one or the other, and you're not getting looked at as, hey, well, how come if you're a Democrat, why you're hanging around with the Republican? And I think more and more that it's turning that way. I think we're turning more together. Focusing on that independency. I think you're going to see a lot more of that coming up in the future.
Yeah, you said, learning how to deal with that through experience in other organizations, because I know you said you were a fireman and on some councils before that. Do you think being involved in those helped prepare you to be mayor later on?
Oh, absolutely. I tell people all the time when the volunteer fire department, our meetings ran by Robert's Rules of Order. So when you're 18 years old and you join the fire department, you hear Robert's Rules of Order. What is that?
Yeah.
But you learn that, and then you learn that I wanted the truck to be red. This one wanted to be green. The vote was over. You lose the vote. You got to be able to stand up and walk over and shake hands with the next person. So as you get older and then you get involved in politics, now you're talking about millions of dollars. You got to do the same thing. It's nothing changes. It's a matter of you had your voice, you had your opinion. It didn't go your way, or if it did go your way, that's good.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely have to learn off of all those things, coaching and everything, how to be patient. So it's helped me a lot in what I'm doing.
Just being involved with your municipality on whatever level you can.
Right. Exactly.
So recently at CCM, we held our Representation Matters event. It was a 2-day training that we did to help underrepresented communities run for office. And we've done that twice now. The first one focused on town government, and the second one on how to run for state offices. And both times we've gotten questions from participants about how to run outside of the two major parties. What advice would you have for them as someone that actually pulled that off?
Well, the advice is to, again, to know how to be part of an organization, know how to run a campaign. You got to be on time. I was lucky enough to be involved as at the young age of helping with campaigns, putting up signs. I mean, one example, we put our signs out there 60 days before the election. So people are going to look and see if you're prepared. Do you know what you're doing? I know people, they knew who I was. They knew me. They liked me, but was I prepared? Did I know what I was doing? And what's our campaign was at midnight on that day that you could put the signs out. So when you drove home at 8 o'clock at night from work, when you woke up the next morning, there was a sign in your front yard that said mayor. And that right along sent the message to a lot of people that, wow, okay, they heard about me all summer long. So anybody that's going to run, they need to get a team together. They need to be know how to run an election, a campaign, but just go out to the people. Don't, a lot of people like knocking doors. I never did. I went to where the people were, whether it's the grocery stores or wherever the sporting events. So they just have to be prepared. And it's pretty simple. If you're talking to the people and you're listening, that's all they want. Just want you to listen to them, and I think they would have no problem. I did my daughter was in political science, and I went to Emmanuel College, and the professor asked me to come up and talk about, number one, running a small town campaign, and then being unaffiliated. How the kids were pretty interested. So I'm hoping some of them did that. I should follow up on that.
Yeah. So it sounds like part of what was important with you is you had that team that, you had the signs ready to go, so that even though you weren't associated with one of the parties for that, you still gave off the appearance of professional that knew what they were doing and was not just someone that put their name on the ballot as independent just because.
Yeah. And I think another example I was thinking of this morning before I was coming on was, again, no disrespect to the opponents I had, but they would have an event at $1,000 a plate. And they would get 10 people or 12 people there. They had 12,000, but they only had 12 people. We did a barbecue roast at our VFW for $25 for a whole family, no matter how many people you had in your family with kids events. We had 500 people there. So that's, and we made 15,000. So you match them, but it's all about the people. You want the people. That's what you want. That's what's going to get you the vote, and that's what's going to make you feel better.
Yeah. So kind of moving beyond parties, WOLCA is an interesting position as one of the smallest mayor-council forms of government in Connecticut. In the past, you were the president of the Council of Small Towns, COST, which represents all the towns in Connecticut under a certain population size. And currently, you are the vice president of us at CCM, who obviously we represent all the towns of Connecticut, big and small. How do you view your partnerships with other small towns and also with large cities like Waterbury?
I think number one, being a part of the COST and being part of CCM is great. I think you need the small towns. Our voice has to be heard at the Capitol. A lot of mandates are happening for smaller towns and different for bigger towns, but now it's changing more. It's everyone together, and CCM is strong. But where our town is, we're near Bristol, Plymouth, Southington, and Waterbury. It's vital for Waterbury to succeed and Bristol to all these towns around us to succeed. Again, Waterbury is where my parents and grandparents grew up, and some people in Bristol, their parents moved into Woolkit. But Waterbury is so important on so many matters that we work great with them. Emergency services, other types of, what we ever, it's just a phone call away. And I think everybody in that room, whether, small town or big city, feels that way. If we have something that they need or we can help with, I'm always asking other small towns how they, how do you do this with this idea or this equipment or the grant money that comes in from the state? What do you, how do you work that? So you're always getting different ideas. And then with the cities, they're definitely different, but our council of governments grew too. We're in 19 towns and cities together. And that is so important that we work and we work together on different ideas and different ways to make it better. And there's nothing more important than that is getting along. And that, especially when we're going after the same problems, we're facing the same mandates and the same issues with the state if they're going to change the way they operate. So we have to be together, and we're pretty strong. I think we're definitely ready for any changes that they have.
Yeah, you mentioned some projects and stuff. Are there any regional projects going on that you're working on with nearby other small towns?
Yeah, we're doing some things now that are coming up. The broadband. Trying to get out, especially with the pandemic, and it's really come to a bigger problem now because of the computers and people working from home. So we're working, even in a small town like ours, we're pretty good, but we still need better in the cities. So we're going to be working with, we're working on different ideas of how we.
Yeah, I know at CCM we were talking about our advocacy team is actually putting together a survey on broadband for the entire state. So if anyone listening at home, check out CCM's website and look for that. Because we want to get surveys of all the towns, big and small, like how their broadband service is, so that we can then really use that information when we're lobbying at the state level to expand some of that infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that the money's come available, so we got to make sure we're ready to go. So
some of the ARPA money coming in, it's the time to get some of that stuff done.
Yeah, that money and the infrastructure money is huge. That you got to be ready. And if we do it together, it'll be stronger. So I'm hoping that will work.
Bigger projects of infrastructure could be something like increased rail service to Waterbury. Would increased rail service to Waterbury have a benefit for Woolkit?
Absolutely. It benefit everyone around and all the way down the valley. Again, and it's shameful that it took so long for the state or the government to get money to them to fix it. It's getting better already, and it's supposed to even be better with more cars coming up in 3 or 4 years. But yeah, the rail service in Waterbury is crucial to, especially now after the pandemic, with a lot of people moving in the area, not just Woolkit, but around from like New York and other areas. So yeah, that rail, it's always been important for that. So it's just shameful again that it took so long, and it's not Waterbury or anybody else's fault. It takes a lot of money, and the investment's finally coming. The voices are finally being are listening. So,
but yeah, that's interesting with the with COVID and more people, especially office workers, being able to work at least part-time from their home. The option to maybe live in Prospect and then use a Waterbury train station to commute to Fairfield County or even New York is much more possible for a lot of people.
Yes, yeah,
that's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just the lower Fairfield County anymore that's a possibility for commuters. It's kind of spreading out. So one thing we've been talking more recently at CCM about, after sort of the pandemic times where we had to be very much, and still to a certain extent, focus on the present, dealing with the things as they happen, we're starting again to look towards the future. Do you generally see Woolkit and maybe even, Connecticut as a whole moving in a positive direction in the future?
I do, because I think the challenges that we faced, I mean, again, I go back further because I've been sitting in this seat for a while, but, you look at the financial crisis we had, nobody ever would think they saw, would see. And that was back in 2009 in that area where it was crazy, but we got through it. And you got through it by staying positive, being prepared. And I think that's what we're doing now. And I think that's what the state's doing. They're preparing themselves to getting the money, making it available for the infrastructure. And like we talked about, the broadband, all the areas. That's a positive move forward where somebody can't, get on a computer or can't do social media in certain areas. We'll be able to do that. And I think if we stay strong together as the towns and cities and work with the state, letting them know that whatever party's in charge, it has to stay that way. The pension, everything, it can't just be put aside. And that's how our small towns do it. The cities, if you look around the leadership now, because we are listening to each other, we're working on it. It's so important that we continue to do that. And I know, I don't talk because I'm sitting here, but Wolcott is in a better shape than it was even 5, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even prior to that. And I'm going to look at our bond rating where we are, because together we have to do the right things for the people. So.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WNHH 103.5 FM.
And thinking kind of locally in Wolcott, do you have any plans on, we talked about the broadband, some of that stuff, plans for using some of the ARPA funds that are coming in? Are there any other kind of interesting infrastructure projects that you have going on?
Yeah, the ARPA funds, when they came in early last year, I was actually going for a bond package. So I had a whole bond package put together, and I was able to work with, actually the CCM membership was great, but because they didn't know what direction it was going in, but there were certain areas that you could use the ARPA funds. And I kind of needed to know that. I had to hold off my bond agreement there for a couple of months just to make sure. And I was able to get some good equipment, equipment that, we didn't have to put in the bond package, and I was able to do other things, either more roads for our town or different things for our schools. Yeah. So the ARPA funds, definitely. Yeah, I bought equipment and emergency service equipment that was okayed by the ARPA, and that was information coming in from CCM. And again, working with other towns and cities, making sure, did you see this? Is this correct? Can we get this fire truck? Can we get the ambulance? Can we get a sweeper? So I was talking with everybody at the time, and I had to work it pretty quick, but we've already done that, and we're continuing to do that. And we are going to continue even with broadband, using it for broadband.
Yeah, that's really cool, thinking about the fact that it's not just the things that you can buy directly with it, but if you're paying for some of those things with the ARPA funds, you have that other money to do other projects with around town. So exactly. It's kind of double benefit there. So in an address that you made to your residents that you're aware of the needs and goals of the taxpayers, and that you have to make decisions necessary to continue to move the town kind of forward in a positive, productive, and fiscally responsible manner. I think the ARPA funds, they have in fact helped you make this more possible.
Oh yeah, definitely. And again, you don't have to bond as much, or with the ARPA funds, it definitely helped us. It helped us with our youth programs. It helped us enhance that and get more people involved. Before you could only hire a certain amount of people because that's all the money you had available. And now we're able to stretch out the summer programs. We're doing it during the week on Friday nights now. We're spreading it out so you're not having a lot of people together, getting different age groups involved that weren't able to get involved, and that was the help of the ARPA funds.
That's great.
A lot of ways. So we're going to continue doing that and find out, definitely our emergency services, our frontline people, not just through the pandemic, but even now in the future, we're going to continue to work with them and get them what they need.
Always research, for the episode, and we were looking up stuff about Wolcott, and we discovered 2 businesses that have been highlighted recently. One is a brewery, and another is a farm equipment supply store. That has become apparently a favorite of people who are growing commercial hemp. How do you guide economic development in Wolcott? And, in some places it's an uphill battle. In, other places it feels like you can't keep them away. What's your experience in Wolcott as far as that goes?
Wolcott, that's where we become a little different because where we're set, we're not too close to a highway, so we can't get manufacturing. We have a great manufacturing area. We have great small businesses. And it's pretty much if one business would close, another one that's a storefront would come in. We have some areas where there's some bigger factories that are open, but those are turning into different operations. Per se, like the brewery was a factory that was closing or lessening, getting less space, needed less space, like most places at the brewery. So that brewery came in and helped that place out. So, and really, we don't have the major problem, I would say a major problem of getting businesses here because it is just a small town local feeling. So we're doing pretty good. And we got a lot of people redoing their businesses, which is nice. We're helping them out too. We help them out with the ARPA funds. We were able to do that, reach out to our businesses and help them, the ones that really suffered through the pandemic. So again, we don't have a major problem with economic recovery here. Again, we don't have the big major places only because we're not close to the highways. But we have enough big operations and enough little restaurants and pizza places and storefronts. Two major grocery stores, one on each side of town. So it's placed pretty good.
Yeah, so it's like an appropriate level of economic development for the size town that you're in. Like it feels like things are growing, but not out of control or.
Yeah, right. And in like the north end, we got a new gas station up the top of there with a little grocery store. So that helps out the other end and reaches into Bristol and down the Waterbury end is our manufacturing area. So that helps out. So yeah, we're pretty, like I said, we're placed right in the middle around everybody, but we're not close to a highway.
In the next year, are there any projects that you're looking to start or complete that you're excited about?
Yeah, I mean, we're still trying to finish. We have a 3.5-mile walking trail that we put in the past like 8 years ago. It's a beautiful trail around a reservoir, and we want to complete that with a walking bridge so that people don't have to cross over the road and come to the other side, which is a little dangerous. That's one of the ARPA funds. But mostly to continue just our road infrastructure and are going green. You know, that's a lot with the ARPA funds. They want to make sure that where the water's coming in, it's getting cleaned before it heads out into any
it's like the storm drain water and that kind of stuff, right?
And that was a big thing with the ARPA funds. If you go green, like parking lots and all that, you could use the funds for that. So we're gonna just enhance all the areas that we can with that ARPA money and make it better.
That's very cool. So with the ARPA money, you couldn't have used it for just a regular parking lot, but if it's made to green standards, that was allowed.
If you're using the drainage and it's there's a certain type and you got to get it, it's got to be engineered, so that comes into it. So it's engineered correctly. You could use it for parking lots. Yeah. So
well, that's very cool. Yeah. Well, Mayor Dunn, thank you so much for speaking with us on the show today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. All right.
We'd like to thank our guest, Mayor Thomas Dunn. I'd like to thank our premier sponsors, Digital Back Office Palo Alto Networks, who you can check out at digitalbackoffice.com and paloaltonetworks.com, as well as our sponsors Gateway Community College and Housatonic Community College. Learn more at gatewayct.edu and housatonic.edu. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WNHH 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Harry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page. If you enjoy the Municipal Voice and are interested in more news and insights on local government, you can read CCM's flagship magazine, Connecticut Town and City. It's the indispensable news source for anyone who wants to stay up to date on any issues affecting Connecticut's towns and cities. It's free, and the summer issue is out now and available at ccm-ct.org.